Hello, it's me, and I've got something for you. And it's a Season 6, Patch 6.1 guide by Fresh from eGaming Television, and we are covering Jungle Graves. You can find us at www.egamingtv.com or on Twitter at egaming_TV. So let's first talk about what exactly Jungle Graves is in League of Legends. Since he is traditionally an AD carry, he is of course a late game monster. Because of his rework, he's actually deceptively very tanky. You might jump on Graves and then wonder after, why the hell didn't he die? But then when you actually understand his kit, you realize why you couldn't kill him. He is not a champion which has a lot of sustained damage, however, his burst is out of this world. If he's found in unfavorable situations, he's also able to slow people, blind them, and escape with his E. He has a build which has been perfected by Koreans like usual, and in this guide we are going to be showing you that build. Because of the knockback on his auto attack, he's a very safe jungler because he doesn't get low at any point in the jungle. That means if you are against a jungler which traditionally tries to steal your jungle over and over and try to finish off low junglers, he doesn't really have to worry about that too much. Now in this guide we're going to cover his pros and cons, his masteries, runes, summoners, his abilities, his ability leveling order, his item build, and a bit of closing information as well. So let's start with our Graves guide by hopping right into our pros and cons. The first pro being he's got great dueling potential. Because of all the abilities he has in his kit, he's able to 1v1 most junglers and other champions around the map. He's got a blind and slow in one ability, a gap closer or escape, and a ton of burst damage as well. So all of that kind of brings us into the rest of our pros, the next one being he's got high burst damage. A lot of his abilities have high AD ratios, and he does go for a high attack damage build as well. When he quickly combos his W, Q, and R, he can insta-gib targets if they are squishy enough. Graves' next pro is that he's got a blind-like ability. It's got a decent radius and range, and when an enemy is sitting in it, they can't even see Graves. This ability right here is part of the reason he can 1v1 a lot of champions. Now, if you think about it, obviously, it's not going to be too hard to 1v1 somebody if they can't even see him in the first place. Graves also has a very strong mid and late game. Pre-6, I'd say he's actually rather weak, but when he does get this in a few items, he does get a massive power spike. Taking a Graves in your comp is pretty much like having two AD carries. So obviously, what's better than one AD carry? Well, it would be two AD carries. If your AD carry did fall behind for whatever reason, Graves would easily be able to pick up that damage. If you end up getting in the mid/late game against a Graves jungler, you may have a hard time winning that game. Your team won't be as tanky as if you say you took a Rek'Sai or something in your jungler, but you will do a ton of damage in fights. Graves' last pro is that he's got a great escape as well. He has 3 abilities in his kit which can all be used to help escape. His W provides a slow and blind, which obviously he'll be able to run away if they are slowed. His E is actually a little gap closer where he can dash over walls or dash a short distance. And his ultimate, which is actually a huge burst, can even be used to make a gap as well. All in all, he's a champion which does a ton of damage, has multiple ways to escape, and is rather tanky as well, which makes him a god tier jungler at the moment. Although Graves is a god tier jungler at the moment, he still has some cons, the first one being he's very close range. The only ability that actually has a decent range in his kit is his ultimate, and obviously his ultimate has a rather long cooldown. Of course, as an AD carry, you don't want to go anywhere near champions such as Mastery and Fiora, but Graves kinda has to. He does kinda make up for this, however, in the fact that he is tankier than other AD carries. But because of his range, you have to be very careful about what is around you and what can get to you. Graves' next con is that he's got no major CC in his kit. The only thing he can actually provide when he is coming in for a gank is a very small slow radius and a bunch of damage. The wisest place to pick a Graves jungler would be in a team that already has a bunch of CC in different lanes. Because of your lack of CC, if your teammates don't have it, it may be hard to get off ganks. His last con is that his abilities eat his mana rather fast as well. All of his abilities cost high amounts of mana, so he is rather reliant on blue buff early, and he can't really spam his spells over and over if he doesn't have the blue buff. Because of the cost of his abilities, he sometimes has to prioritize what skills to use so he can have enough mana to get off his combo in a fight. With the pros and cons out of the way now, we're going to jump right into his runes, which are the traditional AD carry runes, as he was usually an AD carry, but is now also a strong jungler. So the runes we take are 9 greater marks of attack damage, 9 greater glyphs of magic resist, 9 greater seals of armor, and 3 greater quintessences of attack speed. The attack damage and attack speed obviously makes you clear the jungle faster and makes you stronger in the team fights or when you are doing ganks. The magic resist helps you not get blown up by AP opponents, and armor of course against AD opponents, but also makes you tankier in the jungle. We're now going to jump right into the Masteries, which are 12 ferocity and 18 cunning. There were some changes in the ferocity tree to talents that do help some AD carries, but because he's not crit based, Warlord's Bloodlust is not good for him. He also doesn't attack fast enough to gain maximum effect out of Fervor of Battle, so we don't take that either. We still take Thunderlord's Decree. So in Ferocity, we start by taking Sorcery for 2% increased ability damage. This is very nice on Graves since he does get most of his burst out of his actual skills. We then follow that up with Double-Edged Sword, so we deal 3% additional damage and take 1.5% additional damage. We don't really get attacked enough for the 1.5 additional damage to matter, but obviously we do a lot of burst and we're trying to burst people down, so the 3% additional damage is very nice on Graves. We then move into Vampirism for 2% lifesteal and spell vamp because having some sustain is a very awesome thing, and we finish that up with Oppressor, so we deal 2.5% increased damage to targets with impaired movement. This is better than Bounty Hunter early on because we do have a slow in our kit. If you were in a team that was lacking a lot of CC and slows and whatnot, then Bounty Hunter may be the better option considering your targets won't always be slowed. In a situation where your team doesn't have much CC, I wouldn't really take Graves in the first place anyways, however. Now as for the cunning side, we start by taking Savagery, so our single target attacks and spells deal 5 additional damage to minions and monsters, and this is just to clear the jungle a little bit faster. We then move into Runic Affinity because buffs from neutral monsters last 15% longer, and pretty much every jungler takes this because having buffs for a longer duration is an amazing thing in the jungle, of course. He's also a jungler which is somewhat reliant on the red buff, so having it for a longer duration is also very nice. We then move into Merciless, so we deal 5% increased damage to champions below 40% health, and this just helps us finish off champions much easier. We follow it up with Dangerous Game, so champion kills and assists restore 5% of our missing health and mana. This can really help you survive team fights if you are getting assists and kills while the team fight is happening, because people are going to be trying to get to you and the AD carry. We then move into Precision, so we gain 3 plus 0.3 per level Magic Pen and Armor Pen. This was recently nerfed. It was 5 plus 0.5 per level Armor Pen, but this is still by far the best ability that we can take as Graves. And finally, our Keystone Mastery is Thunderlord's Decree, and your third attack or spell on an enemy champion calls down a lightning strike in the area. This deals 10 damage per level, plus 30% of your AD and 10% of your ability power, and has a 20-second cooldown. It's rather easy to get this off in a team fight because your main burst is your WQR, which of course, if you can count, is 3 abilities, and you're probably going to be getting off an auto attack or 2 in there anyways as well. For Jungle Graves' summoners, we obviously take Smite and Flash, and Flash is used for chasing, escaping, and repositioning. Smite, on the other hand, is a must-have for a jungler as it makes your jungle clears faster and is good to finish off Dragon and Baron. You do also gain Challenging Smite when you acquire your Skirmisher's Saber, which makes you do true damage for 3 seconds and makes you take 20% less damage from that target as well. Both of those are very amazing things to have, and they increase your dueling and kill potential as well. Now we're going to jump into each of his abilities, starting with his passive, which is called New Destiny, and as you can see, there is a lot to this. As Riot is reworking champions, they seem to be making their passives more and more intense, so there is a lot to this one. So the first part is called 12 Gauge, and each of Graves' basic attacks consume 1 shell and sprays 4 pellets in a cone. Critical strikes spray 8 pellets over a 50% wider cone. Enemies hit take 75 to 110 based on level, % AD, physical damage, plus between 25% and 36.6% AD damage for every pellet that hit them beyond the first. The next part of this passive is called Buckshot. Pellets stop at the first enemy unit or structure they hit, meaning Graves is not guaranteed to hit his target. Each pellet will apply on-hit effects, but enemies will only suffer on-hit effects once per shell. Non-champion units hit by more than 1 pellet are knocked back. Now this part of the skill is a big part of learning Graves. The whole time you're fighting, you have to remember that if there are minions in front of you, you will not hit the champion behind them. Same goes for if you're trying to target, say, an Ezreal that is behind an Alistar, you will be putting shots into the Alistair and not the Ezreal. This means that in order to hit the target you actually want to, you're going to have to actually reposition yourself so your auto attacks get to that target. The non-champion units getting knocked back are why he's such a safe jungler. When he is clearing the camps, as you're seeing in the video, he is knocking the minions back and back, so he's not actually getting hit that much. The last part of this passive is called Double Barrel. Graves' gun, which is called Destiny, holds up to 2 shells. After using all of his shells or sitting on 1 shell for 4 seconds without attacking, Graves will reload. This takes 2.079 seconds, during which he cannot attack. The reload timer is reduced by 0.4% for every 1% bonus attack speed for a minimum reload time of 1.22. Because of this part of the passive, we don't actually get a ton of attack speed because you can't actually attack a lot, it will just make you reload faster. In a burst situation, you're only maybe getting off a couple auto attacks, but you're getting most of the damage from your actual abilities. We, however, do take a bit of attack speed in our build, so we do reload a bit faster, but that is not our main priority in the build. With all that passive bullshit out of the way, we're going to look at his Q, which is called End of the Line. Graves fires a round in the target direction that deals physical damage to all enemies it passes through and leaves behind a powder trail. The initial physical damage is between 55 and 115 plus 75% bonus AD. After 2 seconds or upon impact with a structure or terrain, the round detonates, dealing physical damage to all enemies in a wide perpendicular area and in a reverse wave along the powder trail. So the physical damage for that is between 85 and 325 plus between 40 and 120% bonus AD. The range of the ability is 950, the cost goes from 60 to 100 mana, and the cooldown goes from 14 to 10 seconds at max rank. Besides your ultimate, of course, this is the best ability in your kit, which is why we max it first. Since minions are always around terrain, it always hits walls and instantly blows up, so it does massive amounts of damage to those minions. Also, as you can see, the base damages are high and the bonus AD ratios are high as well, so it does do a ton of damage. The detonation damage can be hard to get off sometimes, but if enemies are against walls or stuck in CC, you will get off that huge amount of damage. If possible, try to hit structures or walls so this will blow up and enemies will take the extra damage. If this isn't possible, try to aim it so they do take the initial physical damage and it will go past them and it will also blow up, hitting them a second time. Graves' W is called Smokescreen. Graves fires a smoke canister at the target area, dealing magic damage to all nearby enemies and briefly slowing them upon impact, and creating a cloud of smoke for 4 seconds that applies near sight of outside the area to enemies within. So in short, what that means, if you are in that radius, you can't see people outside of it, and you are slowed. The magic damage is between 60 and 260 plus 60% AP, and the slow goes from 15% to 35% at max rank. The range at which you can cast the ability is 950, and the radius inside is 250. The cost goes from 70 to 90 mana, and the cooldown goes from 26 to 18 seconds at max rank. In a team fight, this can be used to create a little zone that people aren't going to want to go into since they won't be able to see people, so you can create a little area between yourself and the enemy team if you need it. It's also great to use if you can drop it on multiple enemies so they can't see your team, and you will have a massive advantage in the team fight. Since this is based off of AP, however, we do max it last. His last basic ability is his E, which is called Quick Draw. Graves dashes in the target direction, reloading 1 shell and gaining bonus armor and magic resistance for 4 seconds, which stacks up to 4 times. The bonus resistances per stack goes from 10 to 30 at max rank, and the maximum resistances, of course, if you can multiply by 4, go from 40 to 120. Each pellet reduces Quick Draw's cooldown by 0.5 seconds upon impact with an enemy. Furthermore, any damage dealt against non-minions will also refresh Quick Draw's bonus resistances. Quick Draw also resets Graves' auto attack timer. The range of the dash is 425, the cost is 40 mana, and the cooldown goes from 18 to 14 seconds. So this ability right here is the main reason Graves can actually be rather tanky. In a drawn out fight where he can get off multiple dashes, he can have up to 120 bonus armor and magic resistance. Now I don't even really have to say how ludicrous that is for an AD carry to just pick up casually 120 resistance to each type of damage. Because of this ability, we're able to get stuff like a Sterak's Gauge, which adds a lot of health since we're going to have resistances anyways from this ability here. Because the resistances go up per level and the cooldown goes down per level, we max this right after our Q. This is also great if you need to get off, say, 3 attacks. You can auto attack twice, quickly dash, which reloads 1 shell, and get off another one right after. Now that we've covered every basic ability, we're going to look at his ultimate, which is called Collateral Damage. Graves fires an explosive shell in the target direction, dealing physical damage to every non-champion enemy it passes through, as well as the first enemy champion it collides with, while also dashing in the opposite direction. So the physical damage of the actual shell hitting somebody is between 250 and 550 plus 150% AD. After hitting a champion or reaching the end of its range, the shell explodes, dealing 80% of its original damage in a cone. The explosion physical damage is between 200 and 440 plus 120% bonus AD. The range of the actual shell is 1000 and the explosion zone is 800 after that. The cost is 100 mana and the cooldown goes from 100 to 90 to 80 seconds. So in total this has a range of 1800, which is a very long range ultimate if you do need to kill people fleeing from you. The damage that this ability also does is insanely high. This can also be used to escape because it does make you dash in the opposite direction after doing that amount of damage. All in all, this is one of the best ultimate abilities that an AD carry type of champion does have. It gives you massive amounts of burst and creates a nice little gap between you and your target as well. I have been in situations in games where I'm rather fed and simply doing a WQR combo, I completely kill an enemy in just those 3 spells. So now that each ability is covered, we're going to look at the ability leveling order, and it starts with Collateral Damage, which is your ultimate, and you take it whenever you can, meaning 6, 11, and 16. We follow it up with End of the Line, which is your Q. You take it at level 1, and it is your main basic leveling priority. So you take it at 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Next is your Quick Draw, which is your E. You take it at level 2, and it is second in priority. So you take it at 2, 8, 10, 12, and 13. Now lastly is your Smokescreen, which is your W. You take it at 4, and it is last in priority. So you take it at 4, 14, 15, 17, and 18. Now we arrive at the item build, which starts with a Hunter's Machete and a refillable potion. Both of these just help you get through the jungle faster and keep you in high health. We then rush into a Skirmisher's Saber, which is enchanted with Warrior. This gives you some nice attack damage and cooldown reduction, and it makes your smite make you deal true damage for 3 seconds, and you take 20% less from the target. We follow this up with Boots of Swiftness, so we're able to move around really fast, and we get some slow resist as well. Now these next 2 items are interchangeable. It depends if you want the magic resist or you want the high amount of damage first. If we are against AP champions, we take the Maw because it is good damage. It gives you some early penetration and you get some magic resist as well, which also gives you a shield which absorbs magic damage when you are low. We then get a Ghost Blade because it's got good cooldown reduction and damage with some nice armor penetration as well, and it gives you an amazing activation which is good for chasing and escaping. We then move into Sterak's Gauge because it's got nice damage and it gives you a bunch of health with an amazing shield which can proc when you do get some burst damage on you so you stay alive in fights. In this build we did take a rapid fire cannon for some movement speed, added damage, and crit. However, this is a very interchangeable item. One good replacement would be a Mercurial Scimitar if you needed that lifesteal, damage, and magic resist with the amazing activation to break your CCs. Lord Dominic's Regards would be a great item as well if you are against very tanky teams and you need to penetrate their armor and get a little bit of added additional damage if they are higher health targets than you. The Mortal Reminder is also a great item if you do need to penetrate that armor as well, and also stop champions who are abusing healing by getting some grievous wounds on them. This is the cookie cutter build that did come out of Korea, as they have finally perfected how to play Jungle Graves effectively. It gives you rather high attack damage and some nice tanky stats as well to keep you in the fights. That pretty much covers it for our Graves guide. He is a champion which is rather tanky and can carry games by all of the burst damage he does offer. His ganks aren't as potent as a lot of champions out there, however, he adds a ton of damage in late game and mid game team fights. Because of all this damage and how tanky he is, as I said before, a god tier jungler, so he is a very good champion to learn right now. I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe if you guys did enjoy the video. We have tons of LOL content to come. Our website is www.egamingtv.com if you would like to see our other guides. You can also talk to us on our website at our contact page, or you could go to Twitter at egaming_TV. Of course, you could also send us any messages through YouTube. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys around.